Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into something important, keeping your iPhone secure and private.
Yeah, it's a big topic. We've looked at Apple's own guides, some analysis from DeepSeek Chat, even what people are saying on places like Reddit's privacy and tech channels on YouTube.
Right, and our mission here is pretty straightforward. We give you actionable steps, things you can actually do to boost your iPhone security and privacy without, getting totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. We want to cut through the noise.
We'll be touching on things like stopping apps from tracking you all over the web, maybe even preventing eavesdropping through the mic. Sounds a bit sci-fi, but it's relevant.
It really is. Plus some basic security stuff you might have missed.
Think of it as a practical guide, pulling the best bits from all those sources.
Making your iPhone a bit more of a fortress, hopefully.
Okay, let's kick things off with the absolute basics, the non-negotiables for iPhone security. DeepSeek Chat really nailed these initial steps.
Absolutely. You have to start with a good lock. DeepSeek Chat stressed using a solid 6-digit passcode.
Which is better than 4, for sure.
Way better. And they also mention, importantly, that you can set up an even longer alphanumeric one. Letters and numbers.
For extra security.
Exactly. Right. And then there's Face ID or Touch ID. It's not just about convenience.
No, it's a real security layer.
Because, your face or fingerprint is unique. Much harder to fake than guessing a code.
Okay, fundamentals covered there. Passcode, biometrics. What's next? DeepSeek Chat mentioned something you really hope you don't need.
Oh, find my iPhone. Yeah.
Essential if it gets lost or stolen.
Totally. But the key settings within Find My are offline finding. You definitely want that on.
How does that work again?
It lets your phone ping off other nearby Apple devices using Bluetooth, even if your phone itself isn't online. Super clever.
Oh, okay.
And also send last location. That's crucial too.
What does that do?
It automatically sends Apple your phone's location right before the battery dies. It's like a last little breadcrumb trail.
A lifesaver, potentially. Okay, and another big one, keeping things up to date. Both DeepSeek Chat and safety detectives on YouTube mention this.
Oh, yeah. This is like Security 101 these days. Keep your iOS updated, period.
Why is it so critical?
Because every update contains security patches. Think of them as fixes for security holes that hackers, they could potentially use to get at your data.
So delaying updates is like leaving a window open.
Pretty much, yeah. DeepSeek Chat suggested automatic updates, which is probably the easiest way for most people to stay protected. Just set it and forget it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the lock screen itself. Daniel, about Tech on YouTube, had some really good points about what you can actually do while your phone is still locked.
Yeah, it's surprising how much access is possible by default. He walked through the allow access when locked settings. It really makes you stop and think.
Some things seem less risky, maybe? Like Control Center?
Possibly. I mean, you can still turn the phone off, even if Control Center is disabled there. So maybe less critical for theft scenarios, but other things.
It's like Siri. He suggested turning that off when locked.
That makes a lot of sense. You don't want someone just talking to your phone, issuing commands, maybe trying to get personal info read out.
Yeah, definitely not.
Even basic questions could reveal things, and similarly, reply with message. Turn that off.
Why that one?
Because someone could potentially reply to incoming messages right from your lock screen. They could impersonate you, contact your friends. It's risky.
Okay, got it. And for smart home users, home control.
That seems like a clear one to disable when locked. Right. You don't want a stranger controlling your lights or locks.
Definitely not. What about wallet?
Well, you can't make Apple Pay payments when it's locked, obviously, but disabling wallet access here stops someone seeing details on, say, your stored boarding passes or tickets, addresses, names, that kind of thing.
Little bits of info, but still sensitive. Now, he mentioned accessories, too. That one was a bit different, wasn't it? Doesn't block things immediately.
That's the tricky part. If it's on, accessories can still connect and maybe exchange data shortly after you lock the phone.
For how long?
It seems the passcode is only required again after the phone's been locked for over an hour. So there's that 1 hour window where a connected accessory might still interact without the code.
Okay. A potential loophole then.
A small one, perhaps, but yeah, something to be aware of.
And then there's the erase data setting. Wipes the phone after 10 wrong codes. He actually advised against that one.
Yeah, his logic was interesting. It sounds super secure, right? But a thief probably isn't just going to sit there guessing codes 10 times.
They might try other methods?
Exactly. But the risk of, say, a kid grabbing your phone and accidentally wiping everything, or even a prank, that risk might be higher for many people.
So the potential for accidental data loss outweighs the maybe limited security benefit.
That was his take, yeah. It's a trade-off.
Okay, now something newer, iOS 17.3 and later. He really pushed for stolen device protection.
Oh, yeah. This is a big one. A really significant security upgrade specifically designed for theft.
How does it work?
So if your phone is stolen, and importantly, you're away from familiar locations like home or work.
Right, it knows where you usually are.
Yeah. Then, for critical actions like changing your Apple ID password or accessing saved passwords, it requires Face ID or Touch ID, no passcode fallback,
Just biometrics.
just biometrics. And even better, for some really sensitive changes like turning off Find My or changing the Apple ID password, it adds a security delay, usually an hour.
An hour delay, even after you use Face ID.
Yep. Even after successful biometric authentication, that hour gives you, the real owner, time to notice it's gone and mark it as lost remotely before major damage is done.
That's actually brilliant. Gives you a fighting chance.
It really does. You can also set it to always, meaning the delay applies even at home if you want maximum security, though it adds friction.
Okay, that's a powerful feature. So we've covered basic security, lock screen access. Let's shift to app permissions. This is huge for privacy. Apple's guides and Apple Design on YouTube had a lot to say here.
Yeah, this is where you get granular. In Settings, under Privacy and Security, you control what each app gets access to. Contacts, photos, calendar.
Things you probably don't want every app seeing.
Exactly. It's really worth going through that list periodically. Ask yourself, does this game really need my contacts? If not, revoke it.
Location services is always a big one.
Yeah.
Apple Design warned against just turning it all off, though.
Right, because essential things like Maps or Find My need it, the key is managing it per app.
So you choose. Never, while using, always.
Yep. And there's also that precise location toggle.
Yeah, what about that?
For many apps, like maybe a weather app, they don't need your exact location, just your general area. Turning off precise location gives them less specific data, still works, but more private.
Good tip. And you see that little arrow sometimes.
Yeah, the location services indicator in the status bar lets you know when something is using your location right now.
Okay, camera and microphone, also critical. We see those little dots now, green and orange.
Those dots are great for transparency. Green means camera is active. Orange means microphone.
So you know immediately if something's listening or watching.
Hopefully, yeah. And again, in privacy and security, you can control which apps get camera or mic access. Apple Design really emphasized this for preventing, potential eavesdropping.
Like, does that game need microphone access? Probably not.
Probably not. Review those permissions carefully.
Okay, now Apple Design's top tip seemed to be about app tracking. The allow apps to request to track setting.
Yes. His advice, which I think is solid for most privacy-conscious users, was just turn that main toggle O-off-F.
Just switch it off completely. What does that do?
It stops apps from tracking your activity across other companies' apps and websites to target ads at you. When it's off, even if an app technically asks, the system basically says nope automatically for all future requests.
So it's like a master do not track switch for apps.
Pretty much. It significantly cuts down on that cross-site, cross-app data collection for advertising. A big win for privacy.
And if you want to see what your apps have been up to with the permissions you did grant.
That's where the App Privacy Report comes in, also in Settings, under Privacy and Security.
Where does it show you?
It gives you a summary, usually over the last 7 days, showing how often apps accessed your location, photos, mic, camera, contacts, and also which websites they contacted, their network activity.
So you can see if an app is accessing your location way more than you expected, for example.
Exactly. It provides real data on how those permissions are actually being used. Very insightful.
Okay, moving beyond those core permissions, what other privacy tweaks did Apple Design or the privacy folks suggest?
Well, sticking with ads for a second, you can go into Apple's own advertising settings and turn off personalized ads.
So Apple stops using your data to target you in the App Store or Apple News.
Yeah, it should limit that personalization based on your activity within Apple's ecosystem. Won't remove all ads, but makes them less targeted to you.
Okay. And what about analytics and improvements, where you share data with Apple?
Right. Under privacy and security again. A lot of that sharing, like for improving Siri or sharing health data, is often on by default.
To help Apple make things better, supposedly.
That's the idea. But if your goal is minimizing data sharing, you absolutely have the option to go in there and toggle those off. It's your choice.
Makes sense. Let's talk Safari. Apple Design mentioned some important settings there, too.
Safari has definitely beefed up its privacy features over the years. Key ones to enable are things like prevent cross-site tracking.
That stops websites following you around.
Essentially, yes. It makes it harder for, say, an ad network on one site to know you visited another site, like putting on digital sunglasses.
Nice analogy. What else?
Hide IP address is another good one. It helps mask your unique internet address from trackers and websites.
Makes you a bit more anonymous.
A bit, yeah. Also, check for fraudulent websites. That's more security, warning you about known phishing sites. And privacy-preserving ad measurement. It's a way for advertisers to get some idea if their ads are working, but without tracking individual users. It's complicated but privacy-focused.
Okay. He also mentioned block all cookies, but sounded cautious.
Extremely cautious. Blocking all cookies gives maximum cookie privacy, no doubt, but it can really break websites.
How so?
You might get logged out constantly, shopping carts might not work, some site features just won't function. It's often more trouble than it's worth for most people, a real usability hit.
Right. So maybe not the first thing to try. What about general advice from the privacy community?
A lot of common sense stuff, but worth repeating. Be super careful on public Wi-Fi.
Because it's often not secure.
Exactly. It's easier for others on the same network to potentially snoop on your traffic. Safety detectives also brought this up, suggesting using a VPN on public Wi-Fi.
To encrypt your connection.
Yeah, it creates a secure tunnel for your data, making it much safer. Another huge one from the community, don't reuse passwords.
The classic advice, but so important.
So important. If one site gets breached and you use that password elsewhere, boom, multiple accounts are compromised. Use a password manager.
Good call. And there was one more extreme suggestion.
Yeah, someone basically said for really sensitive stuff, maybe just don't use your phone or limit its use significantly.
Acknowledging that no device is perfectly secure.
Pretty much. It depends on your personal risk level and what you're doing.
And we actually saw a story on that privacy thread, didn't we? Someone thought their iPhone might have been compromised.
Yeah, after another device was lost or stolen, they suspected the iPhone too. And what did they do immediately?
Changed passwords, turned off Siri access when locked.
Exactly. The very things we've been talking about. It shows how these settings aren't just theoretical. They're practical steps you take in a real potential crisis.
And features like Find My, or especially stolen device protection, could have been game changers in that situation.
Absolutely. Allowing remote wipe, location tracking, adding those delays, crucial tools. It also highlighted the user's frustration, which is understandable. Security needs vary.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up. A quick recap of the key takeaways from this deep dive.
All right. First, lock it down tight. Strong passcode 6 digits or alphanumeric. Face ID or Touch ID enabled.
Turn on Find My iPhone, crucially with offline finding, and send last location toggled on.
Keep your iOS updated. Seriously, run those updates promptly. Enable two-factor authentication on your Apple ID too.
Then think about the lock screen. Consider disabling access when locked for Siri. Reply with message, home control, maybe wallet.
And if you have iOS 17.3 or later, strongly consider enabling stolen device protection. It's a big security boost against theft.
For apps, review those permissions. Contacts, photos, calendar, location services.
Especially location services. Limit precision where possible. Check camera and microphone access too.
And definitely consider turning off Allow apps to request to track globally.
Use the app privacy report to see what apps are really doing with the permissions you gave them.
And for extra privacy points, disable personalized ads from Apple, review analytics sharing, and use Safari's privacy features like prevent cross-site tracking and hide IP address.
And the basics. Be careful on public Wi-Fi, maybe use a VPN there, and practice good password hygiene, unique, strong passwords everywhere.
So the bottom line here, you actually have a lot of control.
You really do. With these settings and just being aware, you can significantly improve your iPhone security and decide what information you're comfortable sharing.
So take a bit of time, go through your settings. Think about which of these makes sense for you, for your comfort level.
Maybe start with the app privacy report and see what jumps out at you. It's quite revealing.
Definitely. And makes you think, doesn't it? What other parts of our digital lives could use this kind of security checkup? Something to ponder.